Let's see. Am I ready to do this? Am I situated? Do I have like the game ready to look at and all that? Okay, I do. I have to admit I was a little bit behind today. I almost didn't want. I almost actually called off the lecture, and the reason for that is because a book's come out that I was waiting for, and I've been reading that the entire day. So I'm like 500 pages in, and I'm like, ooh, if I just maybe push back to tomorrow, I can finish this, maybe, but I have too many lessons tomorrow, so I can't do that. Maybe I should push it back till next week, and then make it up then. So that's been really tempting to do. That was tempting. But no, I didn't do it. What book? The book is called... Sorry, I'm squaring things away real quick. But yeah, the book is in fact called... I will write it in the chat for everybody. For reference. There are very, very, very few books that I've been enjoying lately. This is one of them. I have extremely high standards. If you like fantasy, haven't read it, highly recommend. But yes, we are going over one of Keji's games today. The reason being, everyone knows by now, he is absolutely on fire. He's essentially the next Isidol, only Chinese version, I guess. Which is completely cool. But everyone's enjoying his games. I know I have. So yeah, let's go take a look at this. This is a game that I chose because there's been a lot of them. He's been on a massive winning streak. And this one I chose because it's one of his simpler games. I mean, he has shown, interesting enough, he can play a complicated game when he really needs to. I mean, he's not just like one style of player. He can play a really complicated game. He can play a really simple game. That's almost just a lesson for other people to learn the basics from. And this is pretty much a game kind of like that. It has some complicated elements, but primarily it's a really basic game I think everyone will be able to follow along with. So we start off about as basic as you can get. 3-4 points versus 4-4 points. We don't need to know very much about this. We all know Black is now leaning more towards territory. White's kind of flexible. You can argue it's leaning more towards influence. Doesn't have to be. Can go either or. Pretty simple way of opening up. Black approaches. Black could have enclosed either low or high. Those are completely fine. As always, don't want you thinking that there's just one way to open. There is not. So White backs off. And it would be very, very unusual if we saw anything out of Black at this point than playing one of the Chinese variations. I mean, you could play this, but that's strange. Because that's a good question. Why is a 9p Black? Reason being, they're both professionals, which means you can go either or. There's a difference in their ranks, typically, but ranks don't always mean someone's stronger. It is not uncommon, for example, for even a 1 or a 2 dan professional to beat a 9 dan professional. So there's no like great disparity that they need handicap for. The very mention that, you know, maybe you should take handicap against this other player, that would offend them so much. But alright, here we actually go back and play the mini Chinese. Nowadays rank is more accomplishment. Nowadays, to rank up, typically you're winning tournaments. You're getting very good standing in like tournament matches. You would have enjoyed seeing Lisa taking handicap. That would be a very disgusting game. It's like, well, that died, and then that died, and then kind of resigned and left. But yes, this is in fact a tournament game. I will link that as well. There you go there. Yeah, but we see the mini Chinese here, which is a little bit unusual in of itself. We don't really see the mini Chinese all that often nowadays. We tend to see the micro variation. So this is, oh, as much as I really, really hate to say it, this is nice and old school. The reminder that this is still very much a possibility. So how do we handle this? Many different ways. If we were going completely old school, we would consider playing like in the middle. But then black gets an enclosure, and the result from that is fairly nice for black. Nowadays, we simply approach the open 3-4 stone. If this is a 4-4 stone, maybe we'd split, but we could still approach the 4-4 as well. Is there a high? That's a good question too, actually. We don't usually see that, no. I don't think there is a high micro or mini Chinese variation. Because, I mean, the low is easy enough to actually reduce. Given that you don't actually have a corner there, you're all focused on one side. You want to make it as difficult as possible for your opponent to actually come in and live. You want them struggling and whatnot. High, a little bit easier to do so. And then with your corner not actually belonging, with the opposite corner not actually belonging to you, this actually not being blacks, for example, you can't just say, okay, now I'm going to build up over on that side, right? So, there's a few reasons why you don't see that. But okay, white approaches high. Go back to move tool. Black pincers could play here. A little bit more unusual. You could try something here. If you were playing handicap, for example, I would definitely recommend trying to see if you can make complication here. Approach him instead, see if he pincers you. It could probably be played evenly as well, because it is inviting, for example, a kind of large framework. That's pretty good. Probably wouldn't see this. Seems a little bit passive by white. But alright. Black pincers. White attaches. Very, very common move. For a very, very common Joseki. There are variations. Could play here, for example. But when we look at that variation, we have seen this played before. What happens usually at this point is white will immediately invade you again, trying to get you to enclose so they can live there too. Essentially, take a bunch of influence, give you a wall, we can approach your corner, force you to enclose, reduce the wall, and your corner's still not completely without Aji at this point. I mean, you still have invasion points, so we can further reduce this later on. But instead, black backs off. This, I should point out, is also another one of those pretty common variations now. It's a good way to avoid this. If you've ever gotten into this variation and you found it's just like one huge just headache you don't want to get like into in your game, because this typically involves, you know, fighting over that stone at p4. If you don't want all of this complication in your game, one good way to avoid it as black is to simply make the two spacings immediately. Nice, simple, everyone will settle. White leans for a little bit more influence, but that's completely fine. Whoa, that's not completely fine, my bad. Sorry, habit. As we can see here, white's just going to settle himself in the corner like so. Unfortunately, he is choosing to do that in Gote, which means he will sadly have to see where his opponent's going to play. His opponent could decide, I have Sente, I'm going to make myself a very large area over here, maybe even enclose. But if we enclose rather than make a large area, then these stones might fall under attack because they're a little bit far away, hard to say. But if you do decide to play there, you have to figure this in and of itself is not immortal just yet, especially with all the Aji lingering down below. So that's probably going to get attacked. So you have choices to make. I could let that be attacked later, but I could grab a large move. Or I could grab a large move, but then I'm going to be attacked. So don't know what you want to do. What would you guys do here? Would you take a large move? Let's say, I don't know, A or B or C or something like that. Maybe follow up at D. Moboy says, play locally and don't leave behind weaknesses. Pros don't like that stuff. Some do. Some will leave a weakness till you attack it so they can get into a fight and kill you. But overall, yeah. Robin Hood says, play a large move. I would probably play F3. Ooh, FC is going to be greedy. I've actually gone over a couple of games like that. There, Keeb. Made a group to be attacked to get a better position. I want to say it was Lee Sedol, too. Not sure if it's a 40-point group, though. But alright. Usually we have this wonderful proverb that we go to urgent before big. Urgent usually means places where you are, in fact, weak, as Moboy has suggested. So we can see Robin Hood wanting to take the large point. Moboy, very aware of proverbs, he wants to go and take and secure off the, his weaknesses first, as we see from Black. FC, that is very risky though, if you want to play all the way over there. That's inviting a very complicated fight. Because you could be pincered and they have to worry about both positions, while White's fine in the corner. Alright, so, whoa, how did I, what? Oh right, I played that first. So, White's turn. White doesn't have any really urgent moves to play in terms of defending himself. He's fine in the corner. His upper left one's also completely okay. D4, not really threatened just yet. Can still make a small knight there, can make a small knight there. Wouldn't take both of them for himself. What, was that one of the big ones you said? No, actually, I left J3 completely off the board. I tend to do that sometimes when I'm trying to gauge what you're gonna guess. Oh, but S6 was one of the ones, yeah. You know, the whole follow-up. Hane, Atari, that kind of thing. Way too early for that, though. But alright. White must decide where to play. So what do we do? Where is White's largest move? What should he be thinking about? Should he be thinking about it's time to attack F17? Maybe approach R16? R9 and P16. What are R9 and P16? R9 is going for that. Ooh. If you're looking at R9, you may want to reread Black S6. This is not going to be Sente for very long. P16. That's one that's already on the board, but I'll give it a B. There we go. And someone said D10. Robin Hood. I always hate to do this, but I love that you're commenting. Robin Hood, you are once again my favorite kibitzer, because I love that you suggested that. That's a very, very important point right there. A lot of people that I've taught would take Star Point for various reasons. But what we have here is we have Black who's pretty settled, and obviously trying to make some kind of a framework right now. So a framework is already on the board. It's being established. White does not have a framework right now. If we give up Sente to make our own framework, well then what's Black's most obvious idea? He made the framework first. He's going to keep growing his framework. So if we're trying to get in the framework versus framework battle when he's obviously already clearly ahead in that particular fight, we're going to be fighting from being way behind. So that could be a little bit uncomfortable. He gets to keep securing himself, keeps expanding, and that's going to be a problem. So usually we want, if we're going to do that, we usually want to do something about his first. Maybe we will take D10, but first this area is becoming a little bit large. So typically we want to do something like maybe A or B has already been mentioned. In this case it's neither. If we do approach B, it's exactly what Black wants because it's the Chinese variation. It's all about trying to get your opponent to throw a stone at B because he's already pincered and it's your turn. So we don't want to do that, right? Instead, if at all possible, usually we want to try to force them to enclose that. That would be so nice if they would be kind enough to do that. Because then it's no longer the Chinese variation. It's just an enclosure with an extension, and you can find ways to reduce that, I don't know, in about 1 million books, I'm going to assume. You can find it online, you can find it wherever. So rather than pincer and make complication, Black does actually enclose. We choose to fight here, that's a bit of a problem. We could do this, but then the attachment gets kind of icky. I mean, there's a double hane that we have to look at, there's a crosscut we have to look at. And now your reading will be put to the test. So rather than that, he takes his territory, which is a pretty large amount of territory, don't get me wrong. I mean, that's 4th line there, right? White gets a 2-space extension because he needs a base, which that's not much. That's not much, and more to the point, we can even keep White low if we need to. I mean, we can still expand off White just getting a 2-space extension, so there's no reason to fear this, right? All we gotta do is make certain that we're not gonna die with the 2 stones. Now here's where things get a little bit interesting, because so far everything's been nice and calm. We played a nice calm Joseki, didn't get into complication, we didn't approach, we just made a 2-space and kind of reduced a little bit of what Black was trying to make. Everything is nice and calm. Black, on the other hand, seems to be trying to invite a more complicated game. Because rather than defend his 2 stones here, or play any kind of follow-up, he decides to approach again. He's creating new groups to see what's going to happen. So here we have a quick, easy evaluation. Where's the profit? Is it on the bottom or is it on the left-hand side? I think everyone here probably is able to tell that the most profit for White now is on the left-hand side. Bottom taken up by Black. Is there Aji there later? Not really. 2-space extension's pretty strong with this. So, okay. Gonna pincer. You can go and do whatever you want. Take my corner. Black decides to do something a little bit different. He reapproaches high. Now things are taking a turn. Because we could follow up. That's probably the most common response here, right? Playing the attachment. But White chooses to be a little bit more aggressive. It's like, you can run away your stone if you like. I can connect and I can attack you if you are not careful. What is it going to be? Because usually we would expect this. And then maybe this, and something like this. But this is Gote. This could be a problem for White, given that Black has Sente again. And then from here, Black can just go, maybe play something like that. Maybe keep all of that low. Okay, that didn't make any sense. Yeah, maybe just the one. Can still lean here. So now that we know where white's getting most of his territory from, just the corners, it could grow. Could decide to grow quite a bit. So instead, white plays here. The question is, what does he have in his mind? Well, he has a choice. He can peep here, or he can run out his group. If he runs out his group, that's a small knight. Small knights can still be cut, and you can also still come underneath. So there's Agi available here. Black says, forget that though. That was not me ruining the tree, that was me playing the actual move he decides to throw in. White connects. Black tries to connect back, but now we're seeing a little bit of the complication that I mentioned earlier. Because white's not going to just be like, well, I guess I have to run you out and give you some fourth line and then just kill off a single stone. No, he decides to play the Hane, and black now has to prove he is worthy of living here. So black cuts. White drops down. What do you think? Are those black stones able to live? Moboy says they are dead. Anyone agree with him? Does anyone agree that those D3 stones are gonna die? Okay, you agree with Moboy that those stones are gonna die. Then what is the point of anything that black just did? If those stones are gonna die, why on earth did he play them? Does that make any sense whatsoever? Forcing him to kill it, huh? Alright, not quite the word I'm looking for exactly. What does he get from forcing white to kill it? Ah, yeah, the outside moves and then attack C8. There you go. That's what I was looking for. So alright, maximize liberties. White says die in a fire. Black says you first. White has to capture, he's now confined to a corner. Now we could continue playing a couple of more moves, right? We could play here, then he's gotta go and do that. But there's no reason to. That kind of thing just gets rid of co-threats, and one of the reasons why I might lose every single co I ever get into. Because I do that, just out of habit, because I'm bad. But no, there's no reason to keep playing those. Instead, we're going to attack. Going to ruin the area that white had in mind to possibly develop. And this brings us back to that very, very simple moves mentality that I chose this game for. Because we could continue fighting here. We absolutely could continue fighting here. We could draw out our stone, could even maybe do a diagonal or something to keep him from connecting underneath at B8. A lot of people would immediately try to save their stone. But as Tassan has mentioned, any attack here does bring a question of this corner to light. I mean, if there's a running battle and white gets a wall, then why wouldn't black just go and rip the corner to shreds? That could be a great idea. Or even jumping out to provoke rather the corner from being to be defended, and just grow the middle. A lot of really bad things here. I mean, the corner's still nice and strong, but we can see if we do anything here, that could be bad. It can be their forcing moves would be used against us. So white says, forget all that nonsense. I'm gonna defend my corner. I can't do anything until this is defended, so I'm gonna defend it right now. So alright, corner defended. Now we can do fun things. Only now it's black's turn, so he's gonna follow up with some forcing moves. Almost misclicked. Some more forcing moves. And then get the whole keep your opponent low thing that I mentioned earlier. Because so far, it's not looking too bad for him. We've got a little bit of influence on the bottom. We can expand up our framework on top. We've got moves that might, I don't know, might keep white surrounded with one more move. So we can develop here too. It looks like the middle is going to be our oyster. White says I must live. It's like, okay. Then I'm going to surround you. It's like, alright, I'm going to live. And continues to surround him. How are things looking for our hero? What's going on this board right now? Is white ahead? Is white behind? Our hero is white because he's been doing so well lately. Very, very true. There are no weak groups right now. But this is usually what I refer to as a bit of a headache game. To play this kind of a game as white, we need to be really, really good at using Aji and reducing. Because one slow move and all of this potential that black is developing is going to start solidifying beyond our ability to control. So let's say you are white. You are looking at this and you have to reduce or invade or something. How do you do it? What are you guys looking at? Where do you even start? I mean, do you start by bringing out C8? C8's a stone, right? Is that a good idea? Do we bring out C8? Aim at the extension on the top. How would you aim at that exactly? Would you go pincer high? Would you try like some kind of shoulder hit on the L17 stone? When you aim at that extension, what are you talking about exactly? Oh, F15 maybe. F15 is a cap. Okay. J17 maybe. J17 is definitely an invasion. H7, okay, same thing, okay. And J6, oh, and a high. So that's what I was referring to. Do we go high? Do we go low? The capping, I kind of like the capping. The capping move is not bad, but I would prefer more white stones here. If somehow, for example, these stones were present for white on the board, then I'd say, yeah, you can probably cap, get him to defend that, and just keep building the left-hand side. It'd be pretty basic. You could go ahead and do that. Without them, what are we developing? Oh, no, it's white's turn, not black. M15. Ooh, Tassan has turned aggressive. M15, I think, will definitely get attacked. What white chooses to play is J17. Bit of an aggressive move, I think. I'm used to the whole let's just get shape and call it quits thing. Like, my first thought was just like, alright, I'm gonna jump, I'm gonna make shape, and then I'm gonna get out of here. This is definitely more aggressive. So let's see what he has in mind for this. Well, oddly enough, I didn't anticipate this. I thought right now black is going to jump or lean on the corner or something to counterattack J17. I was wrong. Black's like, okay, you can have that stone if you'd like. I don't really care about it. So you can have that, and here you go. You can keep having the stone. I'm just gonna make it small. There we go, nice and small. And that's the variation. So I thought when I was looking at this game at first, I thought a huge battle was about to take place. Instead, we have this. So all right, very, very simple decision by black. White now has Sentai. So white pokes at some shape. Like, what's going on here? How are you going to respond? And black says, by protecting my top side, you can't cut me. Okay, if I can't cut you, can I attach? It's like, yeah, you can attach. Essentially, we're just going after Aji at this point. Because now we can push through. Things are getting a little bit complicated. Black says, that's okay, I'm going to kill that. Which means white gets to push out. But black is trying to be reasonable. He's not trying to take everything through the middle of the board. He's just trying to take the top as solid territory, and if he can grow into the center, that's great. What Aji's left, yeah. So white pushes through, but black ignores. Those stones are kind of small. If white really wants to capture them, it's going to do so in Gote. We get to follow up again. No need to respond just yet. White plays the Hane. Black cuts because he's looking for Aji. You can kind of see why he's looking for Aji. This is a very interesting part of the board. I mean, we've got this move, which isn't completely dead yet. The cut point as a result of that not being dead yet. We've got the stone over here that we'd really do something about. Get stronger in the area, then this will never come back to life. If white just plays the Atari, then we've got multiple follow-ups, which are really nice. So white doesn't play the Atari. White goes underneath, because he has that stone still. Okay. Decides to go back. White extends up. Black gets a forcing move. Now that's been forced. He invests in the area that he's now obtained for himself. And then says that's territory. So not bad, not bad. He was trying to build up a little bit of something in the middle. And, you know, white kind of pushes through. But there was so much Aji, something was going to happen in there. I mean, there were so many cut points that was going to be reduced. But it's okay, because he's building up another area on the bottom, on the left side of the board. So it's not bad, not bad. But at the moment, it still looks like we're playing a game that is very much a game of reduction for white. We have to ensure that the areas that black is trying to develop does not grow that quickly. If it does, we're in trouble. So what do we do now? Do we just poke at this then? Just try to reduce that? One wonders if Moboy has seen this game before. Okay. Just call the mystery gang if you are in trouble. Is this an episode of Scooby-Doo? I suppose you can do that. I don't recall them ever playing Go on one of the episodes, but maybe that one just never aired. But alright, I guess you could do that if you got the number. But yeah, we're having consensus. Attack Q8. Yep, very, very true. One good way of reducing a large area that you don't like is find something to attack. Gets you stronger. Maybe you can even run the group that's weak into the area that you don't like, following it and reducing it at the same time. Pretty much happens naturally. One of the dangers of having weak or running groups on the board while you're trying to build. But yeah. White completely agrees. Let's just poke at this. If he's trying to develop that, I'm going to develop something too. I'm going to develop me some influence and wreck him. So alright, we go here. That I thought was a very odd timing. No, you wouldn't do that, because that might be Gote. Can't be time Suji, right? So we take that. Yeah, maybe. Black plays here, though. I can only assume that was forced as a result. Getting those stones and connecting up might be too much. That was a Mii situation. We're gonna get one or the other. So here's some interesting stuff. This game has been a game about white having to reduce black. So one way of reducing black is getting strong in the center. One way of getting strong in the center is finding every forcing move on the board and use them to your advantage. So here we can easily follow. There was a weak group, we can attack it, it has to respond, we're getting free moves. Doesn't want to be surrounded, it has to respond. Where are some other forcing moves? Can we identify them? Where do we go from here? Moves that black has got to respond to. Yep, the L4, K4 are definitely forcing, and subsequently white's next move. Can't let black be cut apart. He's got to respond, otherwise he has to live locally with both. That's not good. So that is forcing. We've got an 11, and an 11 is forcing too. Not the area we're so much interested in though, but yeah, it's forcing. What I like is you've all probably been told that if a stone is not off the board, then it has a value. Only until it's been completely removed do you not have to worry about it anymore. And though it's completely surrounded, this is another one of those instances where it still has value, because it grants us a forcing move. Like, if you don't respond, I can probably attach to your at F8, and if you hunt, I can crosscut, which gives really, really awful Aji given that my stone is still on the board. You don't want these things to occur. Black defends. White says, but you know what? I would really like to save my stone. So, could you mind responding to me again? So he does. Push. Respond. Push. Respond. And connect. White is playing mean. A lot of people get a little bit nervous when their opponent starts to say, you know, I want this area to be mine. But that's kind of liberating in a way. Because when your opponent tells you what he's interested in, then you know where your forcing moves are. In a way, you kind of want your opponent to commit to something. Because if they're playing just this territorial game where they're not really looking to expand, but they're looking to like reduce or attack, where are your forcing moves there? But if they're trying to build up an area, yeah, that has possibilities. I like that. I like that a lot. So alright, we're connecting up, forcing black to defend himself all over the place. So because white noticed black wanted an area, suddenly he's growing his own here. Oddly enough, this game of black's Moyo, I don't know, it's taking a turn. Endgame. Let's see, what now, what now, what now? More forcing moves, the N14, 11 zone that I want to say Moboy mentioned. Yep, Moboy mentioned earlier. Forcing. Threatening to cut. Also forcing. And then a connection. So somehow, because of all of these awesome forcing moves that White's found, that center bit which black was really trying to develop, well, unless my eyes completely deceive me, it looks like there's now a chain of white stones going pretty much across the entire board, from one side to the other. So that plan did not work out very well. And now it's black that has to reduce white. Because you can't just let him get another move in here and be like, alright, yeah, sure, all of that into the middle, including Tengen, all that's going to be yours. You can't allow that. So alright, we have to come in. Black definitely responds with that. White says, you need to respond to me again because I'm, like, fixing shape and threatening to invade you, which is responded to immediately. White doesn't get greedy, just fixing his shape and applying pressure. Your small knight is in a little bit of trouble if you are not careful. Probably Taimsuji. Black still trying to make that larger area than White's. Gonna develop all the bottom stuff if he is if he is given the opportunity to. And if my throat behaves. There we go. So alright, now we're in a game where I have to not let you, why not F9 instead of F8? Well, if you F19, sorry. That is an Atari, black gets to take, and then you get to go back and play regardless. And yeah, the cut is also an issue. When did we see that? Back over here. So if we Atari, that's an Atari. That comes back. There is Aji there. I guess he decided it's worth a point to make sure nothing's there. Where were we? Ah, here. Right. So white is trying to keep black from getting too much. Black is getting something though. This area is pretty strong. White secures himself a bit. Does a little bit of extending. A little bit of invading. A little bit of poking. A little bit more poking. Getting all of those large moves in that are forcing White to hang on to what he has now and or not die. And end off in Gote. White connects up his stones because there's like a whole bunch of small knights and what have you. This being cut off is not outside their own possibility. And as we can see immediately, Black's going to go after it because if he can cut off those 2 stones in the K line, force White to defend himself over and over again, that's going to be pretty large. That would be pretty large indeed. So we're trying to hold on. Trying to hold on to something else. We can see the middle stones are going after now. White connects here. Looks like he might be giving up the N10 stones. That's still a small knight. That small knight, I don't know. Rumor has it they can be cut. I have heard this thing in stories. Responds. Not gonna get a chance to take anything else there. Gonna defend our cut points. We'll poke in. And then take 2 stones. White reduces as well for some more of his own endgame. It's like, alright, you can do that. I'm gonna connect up and reduce you. Pretty good endgame. Offers up a stone. White says, okay, I'll take it. And by that, I mean not at all. You are not going to lock me out of there. That is entirely too large. Plays the Atari, but we get to extend because we can't push through, otherwise our stones are captured. Now we can push through, but we can connect to the right, so it's still okay. Takes, forces, otherwise it cuts are really, really bad. Brings another way to connect. Speaking of which, is there enough Aji left for this to be disconnected? There better not be, otherwise White's gonna look really, really silly. Plays the Hane. White extends. Alright, captured a stone of White, that's not bad. This I'm not entirely certain of. I mean, I guess you get away with a stone once you connect back, then you gotta take. And you can't Atari over, otherwise awful things are gonna happen to you. I mean, even if you play this first, there's no way to prevent everything, right? Alright, I guess it makes sense. Never mind, I do understand it. I have learnings. Getting into some endgame. Looks like nothing weird's gonna happen here anymore. Until Black decides to go after these 2 stones. Looks pretty simple. Looks pretty simple. Just go. White extends up. Black extends down. Takes a couple of points for himself. That would be very large considering we're in endgame. Able to solidify this bit here in the center, that would be huge. Because I mean, there should be nothing here now with White so close. White fights it. And fights it. So anyone who's not Moboy, how do you answer this? Because if you just lost those stones, you probably just lost the game. How do we obtain freedom here? Does anyone see it? I know Moboy does. He's seen everything in this game. K11. Indeed, Rukus. You threatened to capture. Because we can see here that if there's a connection, which seems to be the most obvious answer, I suppose, and we cut, well, it doesn't really work, does it? One liberty up. If there's Hane, then this just gets killed. If there's... that doesn't even pretend to make sense, but we can see that doesn't work either. Black did just lose those 2 stones, which means white gets to connect up, which means black has no territory here, which also means he resigns the game. He resigns with K11. So the game itself was pretty easy to follow, rather. We saw a game in which Black decided that he was going to make a very, very large framework. He continued to try to build up everywhere possible, but, and I've seen, just so you know, I've talked to some 5 and 6 dons who've had a little bit of trouble with this. They see an area that their opponent is building, and their first instinct is to just invade it and reduce it, right? What they have trouble with is seeing an area that their opponent wants and saying to themselves, okay, what can I get out of that? And we see white here had absolutely no trouble. He saw the area, he's like, well, I got forcing moves so I can develop here, and I got forcing moves so I could like keep getting something in here, and the middle, which was going to black, just did a complete turnaround and was now going to white, and now black had to be the one to reduce everything, otherwise he was going to be in so much trouble. And that kind of thing is really, really cool to see. It reminds me of Ni Cheng Ho whenever I see it. It's like, I'm going to give you exactly what you want, and you're not going to like it. And here, black got exactly what he wanted, and then resigned. Is T16 at N10 out of the question for black? I have no idea. T16, that is that move. N10 is that move. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I can only assume that this is too good with the capture. This is very much a defensive move. Black does lose a lot from allowing white to both take the stone and connect. So I guess he felt it was simply too much. There could even be Aji in the corner that I'm missing as well, with the cut point, though I don't think so. Having to go do this would suck, though, wouldn't it? How many forcing moves are you giving up? And then you still have Aji here. Yeah, I guess he felt it was out of the question given his capture. Or his Hani, rather. Anyway, I thought this game was amazing. He's been playing everyone. He's been playing, you know, mid-level Dons. He's been playing high Dons like the 9 Don that we see here, who have gone over his games before. He played Gu Li, and I don't know, spoiler alert, I guess. He beat that one as well. Or he beat him, rather. And that's important to note, because Gu Li, his games are really, really important right now. He's locked in a best of 10 with Yi Sedol. So it's really interesting to see how he does, and he just lost to him. So that was interesting. That was interesting. So I'm glad you liked this game. Did he ever play against Chocha? He did. Yes, he did. I'm sorry. Yeah, right. Samsung. Yeah. He beat him. Yeah, he beat Chocha. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. I hope you will now know not to always fear what your opponent is trying to get, and think to yourself how you can use it to your benefit. And I'll see you next time. We'll look over a different idea. Take care, everyone.